The TSP Lifecycle Funds perform, and should you consider those as opposed to the 5 different options that you have? We're going to dive right into that today here at the Heritage Wealth Planning YouTube channel. So thanks for coming on board. If you like what you see here, click on that little button down there to subscribe to be updated for future content. You also want to hit on that little bell to be notified because I do a video a day. Right now we're in a little cycle about TSP, but we always go back and forth, all kinds of things, Social Security, Medicare. Get a lot of questions on disability. So at some point, I'll do a tutorial on disability insurance as well. But lots going on. So definitely subscribe and hit the notification bell. So let's dive right into it, my friends. The TSP. And as always, we started at tsp.gov website, and we just go straight to investment funds. And I am going to do another video, too, on the withdrawal options of TSP. I tell you, the one area of TSP that's horrific is the withdrawal options that you all have who are members of TSP, thrift savings plan. And I want to dive into that because that's bad. I mean, if there's ever a reason to move your money from the TSP to another type of account, an IRA, a different 401k, it's just because the withdrawal provisions are horrific. And you got to know those going in. But other than that, there's no reason to move from TSP to the other accounts. There just isn't. But the withdrawals are enough to make me say, yeah, it might be something you think about once you separate from service, be it the military or the federal government. All right, so let's go into the TSP here, the L fund. So here we go. The Lifecycle Funds, and all the Lifecycle Funds are, they're a conglomeration of this G, the F, the I, the C, and the S. All right, so that's what they do. They take a portion of the G, the F, the fixed. They take a portion of the I, the F, and the C, the stock funds, and they just put them together in a nice little asset allocation bucket depending on how aggressive you want to be. Now, a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to retire in 2020, so that's the L fund I need to have. No, not all. You can have any of these funds right here. 2020 just means you're going to be more conservative than 2050. All right, that's all that means. So 2020 means you'll have more G and F, the fixed income side, then you will have the other 3, the I, the C, and the S. 2050 is just the exact opposite. So you can retire like tomorrow if you want and keep the 2050 fund. You can retire in 2050 and have the 2020 fund. You absolutely can. There's no issue with that whatsoever. And so let's just give you how these things are structured here. So we're going to start with the income fund. It's just where they give you income like you've already retired. And basically, who should invest in the income fund? Who are currently withdrawing from their TSP accounts is what they say. All right. So basically, if you look, the income fund has 74% in G and 6% in the F. So it's 80% fixed income. The bulk of that is a G fund, and the G fund has never had a down year. So this is where you're going to basically guarantee, and I can't quite guarantee because even here you can see you had a down year in 2008. But here's where you're basically going to say at the end of the day, I don't want to take hardly any risk at all. Now, in this case, it still lost money in 2008. And, well, that's not shocking because it does have 6% in other funds that got hammered in 2008. So I'm not shocked by that, that it did lose money in 2008. Actually, right here, prior to January 2016, the allocation for the L fund was the G fund 74%, was 74% G fund, 6% F, 12% C. All right, so basically the same thing that we have now. They just have less small cap funds. So that's the G fund. And as you can see, since inception 2005, it's averaged 4.15% a year. Not much, and the reason it hasn't done much is because it has a G fund. That's why. But even with that, you still had a down year in 2008. In fact, that was down somewhat substantially there. That looks like about 5%, 4.5%. So, it wasn't a stock market decline, but certainly was a down year. Especially if I imagine a lot of people thought they were not going to lose money, and they did. Well, they didn't if they sold it. I mean, if they stayed with it, they did if they sold it. And then you can see the G fund, the L fund, income fund has beaten inflation. Start with $100 in 2005. It's made $168. So basically, you've returned 68 cents for every dollar you invested. Inflation has eaten away 27 cents of that. So you still have a net gain there of about 41 cents. So after inflation over the last 13 years, every dollar you invested has given you 41 cents net of inflation back. But then you got to factor in, you're going to pay tax on that as well. and you're paying tax on this entirety. So let me bust out my calculator. If you had $168, if you had $68 as your gain, well, it's actually not your gain. If you had $168 and you're in a 20% tax bracket, we'll just say 20% tax bracket for simplicity, you'll be left with $134 after taxes. Now, so then you got 134 minus 127. And that's where I talked about before. You're only looking at $7.04 that you've made in the L fund, the income fund, the income fund, because you're paying tax on the entirety of this $100. All right, so you don't get, there's no break because you went in pre-tax, which is why you should look at the Roth 401k or Roth TSP. So the whole entirety of this is taxed from the $100 all the way up to here. So if you take it out and you're a 20% tax bracket, you lose 20% of $168, which is a little bit more than $30. But yet you're still, the inflation, this right here is still eating away at all that. Even the gain before tax, you're still losing to inflation. So after taxes, you only had $134, and then inflation was devoured. Of that $34 that you made, inflation devoured 27. So you didn't make much. You didn't lose. You still got ahead of the game, but after taxes, inflation, you didn't make any money at all. 7 cents on the dollar, or 7 cents on the dollar. That's not enough. That's not much to write home about. I'm just curious. Let's see if you're in the 30% tax bracket. We'll use that for state taxes as well. Like say you live in Maryland. Then you got, so if you had 168 and you minus 30%, you're down with 117. In fact, so if you're in a 30% tax bracket, you're losing money because here you got, after 30% tax, you're down to 117 and your inflation is at 127. So you've net loss. And that's why I'm not a big fan on any of the G or the F funds, simply because you're losing money after taxes and inflation. Tax bracket contingent, that's water, by the way. But if you're in a mid to high bracket, you're losing money on these funds. All right. So that's the L fund. Again, it's average 4.15% going back to inception. Hard to see that doing much better than that, frankly. But, that's probably what you're going to get, about 3 to 4%. Here's a 2020 fund. Similar thing, a little bit less aggressive. A little bit of this return. Yeah, it's a little bit more return. It's at about 1.4% more return. Yeah, so it's returned about 30% better. All right, so that's not too shabby. Had a bigger, look at that, the big drop in 2008. So to get that 30% more return, you had to deal with this right here. All right, and that, some people just can't take that for sure. And even here, look at that. We started in 2017, a couple of these monthly, we had pretty significant down months. So more aggressive. Better returns for sure, just more aggressive in terms of the down markets. So 2030, let's see here. We have, in this case, we got a little bit more diversified. You still got 40% in the bonds, 33 in the large cap, 9 in the small, and then 18 international. And here we got, pretty close to the same decline as we did in the 2020, but this is average 6.31. Where the 2020 is averaged 5.56. So we had 80 basis points above 5.56. So we have 14.5% higher returns on the 2030 than we did on the 2020, even though they both have roughly the same down cycle. So there you go. I mean, at the end of the day, you'd rather get if you had similar risk, you'd rather get a higher return. That's all there is to it. 2040. Let's take a look here. You got about 30% in the G and the F, and the rest of the stocks. Here we had a little bit more. Yeah, down 32% in 2008. Hadn't had it down here since, and that's averaged 6.73. For now, the 2030 is averaged 6.31. So a little bit more risk and a little bit more return. That's just what you should expect. And lastly, we got the 2050, which still, even that has a little bit of bonds. Yeah, so it still got roughly 18%. In bonds, of 11 in the G fund and 7 or so in the F, and that that wasn't around in 2008. So we've only had up years. So I hope a lot of people aren't investing in this thinking I better get in this now because this averaged 10.53% and the other ones haven't. That's the wrong answer. It missed 2008. Over 5 years, this is average 11.72. I'm just curious what the 2020 has done over 5, probably 5.5 or something like that. 7.44. So 2050 fund over 5 years has done pretty well, just because we haven't had any down markets at all. And you've made decent money. You did have a pretty significant decline here. I'm not sure what month that was. Was it July of last year, October? I can't remember. But anyway, it's just more risky. All right. So what should you do? Well, here's my recommendation. I'm not a fan of the L fund at all, actually, the income fund. I am a fan of the Lifecycle Funds, big time. So let me show you what happens with these Lifecycle Funds. They actually give you a nice little calculator here, and it'll show you as you get older. We can go look. So see what it is: 11.14 in the G, 8% in the F. Now we're going to go to 2022. Look at that, 12.7. So it gets more conservative as you get older. So it's pretty cool. It follows this very distinct, elaborate approach. It says at the end of the day, you know for a fact how aggressive your fund's going to be, because every month it gets a little bit more conservative. Here's April 2024. We got 14.6% in the G fund. And here's July 2024. We got 14.9. And so I like that a lot. In fact, I'm just curious what the income fund is going to do here. So here's the L income. It doesn't give you a thing because it's going to stay like that. So basically what happens with these life cycle funds every year, actually every quarter, they get more and more conservative. All right. So basically with the L, any of the L 2020, 2030, 40, 50, and probably pretty soon a 2060 fund, you're going to start off with more stock exposure. And then it's going to get progressively less and less exposure to the stocks and more to the bonds as you get closer to retirement. I don't have any problem with that. I think the strategy makes sense because the first 2 years of retirement are critical for you. You cannot get a 2008, well, this doesn't show it, but you cannot have a 2008 right when you hung up your boots. You can't do that. If it happens to you, you're going to be in a world of hurt. You can't. So I'm a fan of the premise of the life cycle funds. What I'm not a fan of is I think I just retired. I'm going to have the L fund for the rest of my life. Not least because, look, again, after taxes and inflation, you're not making any money. You're not. You're losing money in a lot of ways, and especially when you die and leave it to your surviving spouse, he or she is going to be even a higher tax bracket, as I talk about in a million different videos I do. And so my premise is that you should always have, and I say always, I don't know who you are, it's up to you. What you should do is you have 3 to 5 years of safe money put away, all right? Just sitting in the G fund is a perfect place for safe money, cash, G fund, and just let it be there 3 to 5 years. That way, when the market declines, as it will, I'm telling you it's going to, you don't need to sell stuff, or even more importantly, you don't need to panic and start selling things because you're worried about the market, going to poop. You don't have to say, oh, Obama just got elected, or oh, Trump just got elected. We're all dead. You just don't need to worry about that because you have 3 to 5 years in the G fund. And I would have that explicitly all by itself in his own portfolio, the G fund, or a fixed income fund, or the bank CD. Whatever you need, have 3 to 5 years of your living expenses. So let's say it costs you $50,000 a year to live on, and you get $25,000 from Social Security. So we need $25,000. Well, we're going to times that by 5. We need $125,000 in the G fund or some fund thereof. And you can make it a little bit more, less. You can do 100,000, 75,000. I don't care. But I like the idea of having 3 to 5 years of cash covered without worrying about the stock market or even the F fund, the investment market at all, because the F fund is still an investment, it's corporate bonds. I like having that idea so that way, no matter what happens, I have enough with Social Security, if you're probably going to have a pension, if you're talking about TSP, and my cash from the G fund, that I don't have to worry about the market decline where I have to sell stuff at a discount of 40 to 50%, like what happened in 2008. And again, on top of that, not only do I not have to worry about that, but I can allow the market to work its magic. And the magic happens when the markets fall and you hang in there. That's the magic. That's what people can't do. Markets drop off a cliff and you, my friend, do not do anything. You hang in there. How do you have the internal fortitude to hang in there? Because you say, I got 3 to 5 years of cash sitting right there in the G fund, plus my Social Security, plus if I have a pension. I do not, and at bestly, if I don't have a mortgage, I don't have to worry about that. I can just leave it be. In worst case scenario, literally the worst case scenario, I have enough for 3 to 5 years of coverage. And historically, if you look at the markets, when that market's tanks, like even 2008, it'll take 3 to 5 years to get back to where I was before. And that's what you want to do. And so my recommendations, I tell people all the time, get your 5-year stuff in the most aggressive you can. And again, that you can handle emotionally. Just because old Josh is telling you, oh, don't worry about it, doesn't mean you can handle that. So if you can handle a decline of 40% like we had in 2008 in a fund similar to this, then put everything you got in there except for the 3 to 5 years in the G fund or the cash or the CD or a combination thereof. And that way, you know for a fact you're going to be fine for 3 to 5 years. And if the market does decline today, 3 to 5 years from now, most likely the L Fund 2050 fund that got hammered will be back to normal in 3 to 5 years. No guarantees, my friends, no guarantees, but that's a good, easy portfolio to constitute. The L Funds, Lifecycle Funds make a wonderful method for that. And really, keep it simple, stupid, no fees, hardly, no trading costs, because you don't need to trade or anything like that. So I hope this helps, my friend. I am a big fan of the Lifecycle Funds. I do a lot. They get a lot of bad, not just Lifecycle, any kind of target retirement fund gets a lot of a bad press, and I don't like that. It shouldn't. I think they serve a great purpose as long as they're not crazy in fees, and the TSP funds are not. So I hope this helps. Have any questions, comments, concerns, put them down below. As always, don't forget to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, as you should, go ahead and hit that little bell down there to be notified of future content. Don't forget, heritagewealthplanning.com is a blog where I have all my blog posts, podcasts. I do put my YouTube videos on there as well, heritagewealthplanning.com. And then, just give me comments and thumbs up. And we'll see you next time on the Heritage Wealth Planning YouTube channel. Thanks, guys.